and welcome to this slightly wobbly beer review. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for subscribing, tuning in, giving us the thumbs ups and all your fantastic comments. You're a very sexy bunch of people, but I'm not quite sure about that shirt. I don't know whether it, matches your eyes. It might just be me. How you doing? Good to see you. Forgive all the shouting in the background, folks. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Someone might be being delivered, like a ton of coal or something. I don't know what's going on. However, I've brought you here today to talk about a beer that I have had in my shed of doom for quite a while. It took me a very long time to brew this one. It took me probably 2.5 months, maybe even 3 months. I can't remember now. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. It's the Cooper's Euro Lager. Now I know immediately you're going, oh, that's boring, haha. But it's not just a Cooper's Euro Lager, folks, because I chucked in some Hallertau as well. So in there I've got 25 grams of Hallertau Tradition and 25 grams of Hallertau Herzbrucker. Yeah, and I also used a proper lager yeast. So I brewed it around about 9 degrees for about 4 weeks before bringing the temperatures up a little bit for 24 hours for a diacetyl rest, and then bringing the temperatures all the way down to around about 2 degrees to do the proper lagering process. Okay, so what we've got in front of us here is a real lager, what I call a real lager. It's not a lager with an ale yeast, it's a lager with a proper lager yeast. So I'm expecting it to be crystal clear. I'm expecting it to taste pretty damn good for a lager. Okay, now because it's a Euro lager, there's going to be some bitterness in there, and also, the Hallertau would have introduced its own alpha acid in there, and so there'd be a little bit of bitterness in there that wouldn't otherwise be there if you'd just used a kit on its own. However, look what I got. I got another Spiegelau. This is a Pils glass, folks. As you can see, I've washed it out in the sink, but I'm going to use it for the lager because all the other ones I've used have got beer in still, and I'm just wading my way through them at the moment. Having a few beers because it's been a while since I was able to be in a position where I could have a good few beers. There we go, folks. Look at that, crystal bloody clear. Isn't that marvellous? You can see me through it. Hello, how are you? Ugly fat bastard on the other side with his glasses. Who does he think he is? There's a little bit of head at the top there, folks, but that's because I poured it a little bit aggressively. That'll go down in a second. But it's got certainly got the right amount of carbonation in there. I was a little bit concerned about that initially because when I tried it a couple of weeks after I left it at room temperature, it wasn't quite carved enough. However, I left it just a little bit longer, and as it's a lager, it's going to take a little bit longer to carb up. Okay, and it turned out all right, I think, with regards to carbonation. But as you can see, it's perfect. It's basically a lager coloured lager, which is what you would expect, wouldn't it? Now I'm going to do the obvious stuff. I'm going to do a bit of a smell. Oh look, it smells like lager. Surprisingly, of course, lagers don't give off much smell, do they? But let's have a little bit of a sip and see what we think about this particular beer. Oh my word. Now, that's a lager. That is a lager, folks. If you look back at some of my old videos, when I first started brewing, I was doing the Cooper's kit. I was following the instructions, okay? I was using an ale yeast and brewing it at ale temperatures and then drinking it and saying, well, it's okay, it's fine. But it just goes to show, with a little bit of effort and a little bit of time and a proper yeast. I keep saying this, folks, it's all about the yeast. When it comes to cider, you have to use the WLP 775, amazing White Lab cider yeast. When it comes to beer, obviously there are loads of choices depending on the type of beer you're going to do, but again, you can't go wrong if you go for a liquid beer yeast with the likes of Wyeast or White Labs, any sort of yeast you want to use. And again, in this instance, I've used a Wyeast Smack Pack Bohemian Lager, and that is number 2124 for those that are interested and want to go and look it up on the internet, have a little butchers at it. This is as close as you're gonna get to a Euro lager. I mean, this is like something you buy in the shop. I would. Someone's mowing their grass as I'm doing this beer review, which is annoying, but never mind. I was going to say I would compare it to something like a Beck's maybe, but I think it's better than that. I think it's better than the Beck's. It's a lot crisper and cleaner, and it's not massively manufactured. It's just manufactured by Roy in his beer fridge of doom, and it's been left to age for a while in the shed of doom, of course. But I mean, look at that, folks. If you like lagers, you seriously need to spend a little bit of time, and it's also about the temperature control. I'm afraid when it comes to lagers, you really do need to use a lager yeast and control those temperatures, because the difference between this and the same beer done using an ale yeast is just miles apart, folks, miles and miles apart. This is a lager. This is just lovely, beautiful. It's basically as close as you're gonna get to a supermarket brand. Better. It's not Carlin, it's not Heineken, it's not Carlsberg or any of the other brands. This is a Lakeybloke lager, and I prefer Lakeybloke lager. Copyright in there just in case anyone wants to nick it. To any of the supermarket brands, because it hasn't got any of those chemicals in, of course. You know, when you buy a lager or any sort of beer from the supermarket, you're going to get chemicals in there, preservatives and that kind of shit. You don't really want that in your beer if you can help it. Having said that, there are some fantastic beers out there on the market, folks, that you can buy, and you know, can't really have a go. However, if you want to do it yourself, and I have done a few now, I've done the Mexican Cerveza with a Mexican lager yeast, and I've done this Euro lager with the Bohemian Lager Yeast, and I will say that this, so far, is the best of the bunch when it comes to lagers. It is absolutely spot on. It's crystal clear. You know, whatever I've done with this, I've done it perfectly. It's come out absolutely fantastic. So if you want to give it a go, folks, you really do have to use a lager yeast, I'm afraid. Get yourself a liquid lager yeast from White Labs or Wyeast or any other liquid yeast manufacturer, folks, but I think you find there's only two. Particularly when it comes to lager yeasts. Go out there, have a go and do it yourself. Get yourself an STC 1000, get yourself a fridge, stick it in the fridge, forget about it for a couple of months, just leave it in there, control those temperatures, make sure you do your diacetyl rest to get rid of that butter flavour for a couple of days, 24 to 48 hours when it's nearly finished fermenting, you know, the initial fermentation. After that, you bring it up, you do the diacetyl rest, and then you bring the temperatures all the way down to around about 2 degrees centigrade, and you leave it for as long as you can, and then you'll end up with something like this. Alright, this is an amazing lager. I mean, yeah, there's not much we can say about lagers, is there really? There's not much going on with a lager, is there? But all you're really hoping for is that there are no off flavours. It's crisp and clear and clean and refreshing, and it tastes like a lager rather than an ale. And this ticks all the boxes. So for a lager, this for me gets a 9 out of 10. It would get a 10 out of 10. However, I can't do that with my own brews, can I? I can't give myself a 10 out of 10. So this is a 9 out of 10, folks. It's an absolutely brilliant, brilliant lager. It's gone. I would be honest with you, folks, and I'd tell you if I didn't like it, wouldn't I? And I wouldn't drink it. So, you know, from me and my Spiegelau glass, that this is a good beer. So there you go, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the latest run of reviews we've been doing. I am back, folks. I'm really looking forward to wading my way through beers and things and doing the regular broadcast on a Saturday night and entertaining you folks and having a good old laughing. Just getting back to normal, whatever normal is. Alright, so I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe, thumbs up and all that kind of jazz. And I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da!